Hi, I'm James Cranfield from Insight Consultancy, and today I wanted to talk to you about fintechs. What are fintechs, or financial technology companies? This may sound like a bit of a rant against fintechs, and it's not. Innovation is absolutely the bedrock of our payments industry, and I believe in innovation. I'm not a complete Luddite. I understand the purpose of relevant innovation. But just because someone has a new functionality or a new idea doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be successful. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what I thought makes a good fintech company and a bad fintech company. So showing you a couple of slides here, I thought I'd just take you through my view of what I think about fintechs. And it's a slightly loaded beginning, isn't it? I don't really have a problem with fintech dress sense. In fact, I'm not a big fan of the tie myself. But fintechs sometimes have an attitude problem in that they think that speed to market and having an agile nature is a good substitute for good business practice, which it isn't, as we will see time and again. And it's going to be very hard to pick out those which are successful fintechs from those which fail. I mean, a good fintech is easy to find, it's the one that survives. But it's actually very difficult to spot the ones that will survive versus the ones that fail. A very sophisticated consultancy came up with the figure that 4% of fintechs will survive. So less than 1 in 20 will survive. And it's very, very difficult to pick out that 1 in 20 fintech companies that will survive. It's almost Darwinian. Business emulates nature and it's the survival of the fittest. Only a few fintechs will survive. But the problem we have at the moment, in my view, is there's lots of funding around, and that funding sometimes is quite blind to whether that fintech is going to be successful or not, and there may not be a robust business case. So the excess funding means that effectively it's cross-subsidizing bad business and negating the Darwinian effect, so the survival of the fittest doesn't really apply. So you have lots of fintechs out there without a proper business case who haven't done their research and who will not survive. So it's really about buyer beware when it comes to investing in fintechs at the moment. Very difficult to pick out who will survive. And fintechs have this belief often that they will succeed purely because of their agility and their great new concept or idea that they had. That may not be the case. They may not have a business case for it. They may have a business case for it, but is that business case robust? But banks have been around for a while, and banks are actually very good innovators, and they are actually very good technology companies as well. They have some of the best brains in innovation and technology that there is in the industry. However, they do have a problem with decision making. They have legacy systems and also legacy decision making structures. It takes them a long time to make decisions, and part of the reason for that is because they have to comply with lots of regulation, and they have lots of committees, and bank committees are notoriously not good at making decisions quickly. Maybe the right decisions, but they'll get there eventually. So yes, fintechs can be more agile and their speed to market is much quicker, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be successful. You often hear this phrase, which I don't like, which is that we will launch and then learn on the fly, which is, obviously represents agility and speed to market, which is great. But actually, there's no reason why you shouldn't do the research and build the business case before you launch. In fact, I would say it was a prerequisite to launching is to do the research and understand whether there is a viable business proposition that the customer wants and, more importantly, will pay for. So I would rather take the L plates off learn and turn into earn. So launch and earn rather than learn. Bit of a mouthful. There is a saying in Silicon Valley that we overestimate what can be done in 3 years and underestimate what can be done in 10. Just do the research. It's really important. Research is key to the success of a new venture. You need to know whether your customer wants this, your prospective customer wants this. FinTech recently told me we don't do research. Let's see how long that fintech will survive. And I do work with lots of fintech companies directly and indirectly, and some are fantastic, but others are less so. So we're going to saying the winter is coming is a bit extreme, but we will have a lot of fintechs which will fail. The funding will dry up. If you imagine it like funding being like musical chairs, when the music stops, there'll be 1,000 fintechs and a couple of investors out there. And investors, unfortunately, represent the chairs. So there will be failures, and we don't want to see anybody fail. We don't want to see anybody lose money. But equally, the investors are going to start pulling out of fintechs when they don't see a viable business case. If there is no viable business case, there is no case for business. It all begins and ends with the numbers, whether you like it or not. If it's not able to be monetized, then it's not going to be a successful business venture. And yes, you might say, okay, we're going to start monetizing in 3 years or 5 years. But that all has to fit in with a net present value. So if it's going to pay back in 3 to 5 years, the investment needs to be even more rock solid. So on that slightly doomy and gloomy note, I'll leave it there. But just to say that if you are looking at a business venture or you are looking at a fintech and you want someone to help you kick its tires and make sure that it's viable, please do give us a call. I do like fintechs, really, I promise.